a man was working on a scaffolding high above the pinnacle of a cathedral. He looked down. He saw a woman praying before a statue of Mary. As a joke, the man whispered, "Woman, this is Jesus." The woman ignored him. The man whispered again, a little louder, "Woman, this is Jesus." Again the woman ignored him. Finally he said aloud, "Woman, don't you hear me? This is Jesus." At this point the woman looked up at the crucifix and said, "Be still now, Jesus. I'm talking to your mother. I'm talking to her about my woes." The topic for today's reflection is God has shown strength with his arm, Mary, the hope for the suffering. Suffering, evil is rampant everywhere, and everyone has to suffer. The moment we step into this world, suffering awaits us. It does not matter into what class of society we may be born, low or high. None of us can evade suffering. How do we define suffering? Suffering is a state of undergoing pain, distress, or hardship. In a broad sense, it may be an experience where we feel unpleasant and even have an aversion to something or people, and this is linked or associated with the perception of harm or a threat of harm in an individual. Suffering can also be defined as physical pain or mental pain that a person or an animal is feeling. The physical sufferings include birth, sickness, old age, and death. And we know that these are unavoidable. Mental sufferings include separation from the people we love, contact with the people we dislike or hate, and feeling frustrated when our desires are not fulfilled or cannot be fulfilled. What are the causes of suffering according to different faiths? In Hindu thought, some suffering is self-caused. It's a result of our own bad actions, either in this life or in a past life, which are performed either intentionally or from ignorance. We call it karma. Some sufferings are caused by evilness of others. That is, other people harm us, which cause us to suffer. Some sufferings are natural, like aging, disease, and now we have COVID-19. So many people are affected by it, which causes both mental and physical suffering to the person and his or her dear ones. Natural disasters such as floods, earthquakes, cyclones, etc. Some Hindus explain these events as a play of gods, which is beyond our understanding. According to Buddhism, the cause for suffering is the desire, the passion, the pursuit of wealth and prestige, striving for fame and popularity in a person. In short, our attachment to things which are transient or passing, not lasting. According to Islam, suffering is caused by the selfishness and the evil of human beings. Traditional Muslim beliefs often attribute the origin of suffering or evil to the refusal of Iblis, Shaitan or devil we call it, to bow down to Adam. In the Holy Scriptures, we read in the book of Genesis that God created everything in the world. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 34, we read, God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. then how did suffering come into the world? In Genesis 3, verse 2 to 5, we read that Satan tempted the woman to eat the fruit from the forbidden tree, saying, "You will not certainly die, for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Then you know what happened afterwards. Eve ate, and so to Adam, thus disobeying God. Then sin came into the world, and along with it, suffering and death. How is Mary portrayed in the scriptures? We are used to seeing Mary portrayed as beautiful, young, with a warm smile, loving eyes, and of course, a character born without sin. Certainly, she was so, the most beautiful woman in the world ever lived. Beautiful exterior and interior. The Gospels portray Mary mostly as a woman of silence, a woman of few words. In fact, not many words spoken by her are recorded in the Gospel. We have a few texts in the scriptures, such as Luke 1, 26 to 38, the dialogue between Angel Gabriel and her at the time of the Annunciation, when she asked the angel, how can this be, since I am a virgin? And after the angel explains to her, her response is, "Here I am, the handmaid of the Lord. Let it be done to me according to your word." Then Luke chapter 2, verse 3 is a dialogue between her and Jesus at the wedding at Cana. When the wine ran short, she went to Jesus and said, "They have no wine." And then she told the waiters, "Do whatever he tells you." Then Luke 2, verse 8, we see Jesus lost in the temple. When she went back to Jerusalem along with Joseph in search of the lost son, she said, "Son, why have you treated us like this? Your father and I have been anxiously searching for you." Yes, that's it. No more. We do hear references made to her during the course of Jesus' earthly life. This shows Mary knew her role and the role of her son in man's redemption. So she, in a way, remained behind in a shadow. Mary was a woman of faith. In fact, great faith. Faith in the Bible is the assurance that the things revealed and promised by the word are true, even though unseen. It gives the believer a conviction that what he expects in faith will come to pass. At the Annunciation, Mary did not understand fully the meaning of her call, yet she generously and wholeheartedly accepted it to be the mother of Jesus through the fiat, the yes to God. And she lived her yes right to the end of her life, in total submission, in total humility, always seeking and doing the will of God, even in her sufferings. The Holy Father, Pope Francis, during one of his weekly audiences said, "Mary is that instant when she said yes, appears to us like one of the many mothers in our world who are courageous to the extreme." Mary is a woman of hope. Hope in the Bible means to trust in, to wait for, to look for, or desire something or someone, or to expect something that is beneficial in the future. In the Old Testament, the Israelites are encouraged to wait for God, hopefully and expectantly. They are told that God's promises will be fulfilled in the course of time. Mary was born in a culture of hope, in people who hoped in the promise of God. We see her cousin Elizabeth, who believed that in her old age she would conceive and bear a child as promised by Yahweh. The elderly prophets, Simeon and Anna in the temple, also believed that they would not taste death till they had an encounter with the Messiah. We see this in Luke chapter 2, verse 32 and 38. And these were fulfilled in their earthly lives. The Holy Father Pope Francis says, Mary is the mother of hope. She hoped and believed that in Jesus, that man's redemption would take place, that she had an important role to play in it. Mary is an icon of hope. An icon is a sacred image which is a medium that allows us to be in contact with a holy person. Example, image of Jesus, of Mary, or any saint. The holy person gazes on us through the icon. We reach out towards the holy person through the icon. We look at the icon of Mary, and in her we see hope. The church prays in the late 11th century prayer, Hail, Holy Queen, hail our life, our sweetness, and our hope. We look to Mary's life and mission to grasp the meaning of hope. Scripture also tells us that Mary was a woman not without suffering. We talk about the 7 sorrows of Our Lady, of which all of you know about it. In the Gospel of Luke, chapter 2, verse 34, we read that when Mary and Joseph went to the temple for her purification and to present the child Jesus there, Simeon the prophet blessed them and said to Mary, and a sword will pierce your own soul too. We know that right through her life she suffered more painfully as she accompanied Jesus in his passion and death, and when she held the dead body of her son in her hands. In the movie, The Passion, the director has portrayed the intensity of her sufferings and her love for her son very vividly. Mary and John are seen scurrying through the narrow streets in an attempt to see Jesus. Christ appears from behind the buildings ahead, his body weakened by scourging and by the crown of thorns. He bends under the weight of the cross and falls to the rocky street. Mary stops short of the scene. She slumps on a doorstep, sighing in her grief, immobilized by shock and fear. We all have experience of suffering, either our own or of others. What should we do at this moment? Should we run away from them, or can we turn away from them at all? In our own very life, or in my own life, 25 years back, I lost my nephew, just 20 years old. And he had gone to Dubai to find employment. One night after our gathering at home, he collapsed and said, Jesus. We rushed to the hospital, and doctor said he has a brain hemorrhage. And for a week, he went into a coma. Can you imagine his parents, how much they suffered for it at that time? They all tried to revive him, but in a week's time, he passed away. I can still see my sister, other sister, everyone in the family in tears. But we all believed that God had a plan at that moment. We interceded with Mary to give us strength at that time to experience, to undergo this suffering. And Mary gave us the strength. We have before our eyes our icon and model, Mary. She is the hope for the suffering. Pope Francis says, we are not orphans. We have a mother in heaven. God in a way has shown us his arm in Mary, who will not let us down. We can always pour our heart to her, and we can be assured that she'll stand by us and accompany us in our suffering. In fact, also suffer with us. Mary is not only a figure to be admired, but also to be imitated. Today, we can take some texts of the Bible and reflect on them. We can take Luke 2, chapter 2, verse 34, the prophecy of Simeon. We can take John 19, verses 25 to 27, Mary at the foot of the cross. And as you reflect, look at Mary. Ask her, when you are suffering, to give you the strength to accompany you in a journey of suffering, so that our suffering, your suffering, may become lighter. You can look at her and say, Mary, you are the hope for all of us for our suffering. We pause for a minute and pray to Our Lady in silence, saying, Hail, Holy Queen.